An orphan donated his favorite toy, never realizing it held the key to finding his true family. The words echoed in Lucas's mind as he stood at the donation center, his 8-year-old fingers still clutching the worn stuffed elephant. The toy's once vibrant gray fabric had faded to a gentle silver, polished by thousands of nights spent in the tight grip of a boy who had no one else to hold. Sister Margaret placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Are you sure, Lucas? Ellie doesn't have to go if you're not ready." Lucas swallowed hard, his throat constricting around emotions too complex for his young vocabulary. The morning light through the community center windows caught on the elephant's glass eyes, making them seem alive with understanding. Those eyes had witnessed every tear, every nightmare, every whispered wish for a family that never came on visiting days. "The new kids need him more," Lucas whispered, his voice steadier than his hands. "I'm too big for toys now." It wasn't true. He would curl around the empty space in his bed tonight, his arms aching for the familiar weight. But Sister Margaret had explained about the fire at the other orphanage across town. Those children had lost everything. Lucas knew what having nothing felt like. With a deep breath that seemed to pull from the very bottom of his soul, he placed Mr. Ellie in the donation box. Something small and metallic clinked against the cardboard, the tiny silver bell sewn into the elephant's ear. The sound had lulled him to sleep every night since he could remember. "You're doing a beautiful thing," Sister Margaret said, her eyes glistening. "Sometimes the things we love most need to go on journeys without us." Lucas nodded, but as they walked back to St. Catherine's home for children, each step felt heavier than the last. The autumn leaves crunched beneath his worn sneakers, their vibrant deaths a fitting backdrop to his own small grief. Back in the dormitory, Lucas climbed onto his narrow bed and stared at the ceiling. The other boys raced toy cars and traded comic books, their laughter a foreign language he couldn't quite translate. 6 years at St. Catherine's had taught him that possessions came and went. People came and went too, especially the hopeful couples who visited looking for younger children. Babies preferably, with no complicated histories attached. No one wanted an 8-year-old boy who couldn't remember his parents' faces, but still woke screaming from dreams of smoke and sirens. Night fell, bringing with it the institutional quiet of lights out. Lucas turned toward the wall, curling around the ghost of Mr. Ellie. Sleep evaded him like a shy animal, darting away whenever he came close to capturing it. "You still crying over that elephant?" Denny's voice cut through the darkness from the next bed over. "No," Lucas lied, quickly wiping his cheeks against his pillow. "Babies cry over toys," Denny said, but there was no real malice in his voice, just the practiced cruelty of a child who had learned to preemptively reject what might reject him. "I know," Lucas whispered. "My mom's coming back for me next month," Denny announced for perhaps the 100th time. "She promised." Lucas said nothing. Denny's mother had been coming back next month for 3 years now. "Maybe someone will adopt you," Denny offered, his voice softening. "You're not that weird anymore. Go to sleep, Denny." In the morning, life at St. Catherine's continued its predictable rhythm. Breakfast, chores, school, structured play, dinner, homework, bed. Days bled into one another. Lucas found himself reaching for Mr. Ellie during quiet reading time, his hand grasping empty air. The phantom weight of the stuffed elephant haunted him like a missing limb. 2 weeks after the donation, Sister Margaret found Lucas alone in the courtyard, methodically sorting pebbles by size. "There's someone here to see you," she said, her voice carrying an unfamiliar note that made Lucas look up sharply. "Who?" No one ever came to see him specifically. "A woman named Mrs. Chen. She's in the visitor's room." Lucas followed Sister Margaret with hesitant steps. Visitors usually meant people looking to adopt, but at 8, he was already considered difficult to place. Hope was a dangerous thing to nurture. The visitor's room was bright with afternoon sunlight. A small Asian woman sat on the faded green sofa, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Something rested beside her, but Lucas couldn't see what it was from his angle at the doorway. "Go on," Sister Margaret encouraged. Lucas crossed the threshold, his heart hammering against his ribs. As he approached, the woman's eyes widened slightly. She looked at him with an intensity that made him want to retreat. "Hello, Lucas," she said softly. "My name is Grace Chen." "Hello," he replied automatically, years of institutional politeness overriding his discomfort. Then he saw what sat beside her on the sofa. Mr. Ellie, his elephant, unmistakable with its worn gray fur and the small patch on its belly where Lucas had once spilled orange juice. "My Mr. Ellie," he gasped, the words escaping before he could contain them. "Mrs. Chen smiled, a tremulous expression that transformed her entire face. Yes, your elephant found its way to my store. I run a second-hand shop that supports the children's hospital. When I saw him, she paused, seeming to gather herself. May I show you something? Lucas nodded, still staring at Mr. Ellie. Mrs. Chen gently turned the stuffed elephant over and pointed to a small seam along its back, nearly invisible among the worn fabric. I noticed this seam different from factory stitching, she explained, her fingers trembling slightly. Inside I found this. With careful movements, she reached into her purse and withdrew a small plastic bag. Within it lay a tarnished silver locket on a broken chain. Lucas frowned, confused. I don't understand, he said. Mrs. Chen opened the locket. Inside was a tiny photograph of a young couple cradling a newborn baby, their faces alight with joy. Next to it, etched into the silver, were the characters Lin Yu Heng, followed by Lucas Lin. Lucas, Mrs. Chen said, her voice breaking slightly. This is my nephew and his wife. And that baby is you. The world seemed to tilt and spin around Lucas. He stared at the photograph, searching for himself in the features of the smiling couple. My parents? The words felt foreign on his tongue. Mrs. Chen nodded, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. Yes, my nephew David Lin and his wife May. They died in an apartment fire when you were just 2 years old. Fire, smoke, sirens. The fragments of Lucas's nightmares suddenly cohered into something real. Everyone thought you had died with them. Mrs. Chen continued. The authorities never found your body, but the fire was so intense, her voice faltered. I never stopped looking for you. Every year on your birthday, I would check orphanage records, but I never found a match. Your name must have been changed when you entered the system. Lucas felt Sister Margaret's hand on his shoulder, steadying him. How ... He began, struggling to form the question. How do you know it's me? Mrs. Chen reached out hesitantly, then drew back. The elephant. It was a gift from me to your parents when you were born. I had it specially made in Taiwan. There's only one like it in the world, with that silver bell in its ear. She paused. And you look just like your father. Sister Margaret spoke quietly. Lucas came to us after being transferred from 3 different emergency placements. His original records were incomplete. There was a fire mentioned, but no details about his family. Lucas stared at Mr. Ellie, the stuffed elephant he had clutched every night for as long as he could remember. All this time, he had been holding the key to his past, never knowing what was hidden inside. Can I? He reached toward the locket. Mrs. Chen placed it gently in his palm. The metal was warm from her hand. Lucas traced the engraved characters with his fingertip. What does it say? The Chinese part. Lin Yu Heng, Mrs. Chen explained. Your Chinese name. Yu Heng means universe and permanence. Your parents wanted you to know you would always have a place in the vastness of the world. A sob broke from Lucas's chest, startling him with its force. 6 years of wondering, of feeling untethered and unclaimed, crashed through him like a wave breaking against rocks. He clutched the locket so tightly that its edges pressed painfully into his palm. Sister Margaret knelt beside him. Lucas, Mrs. Chen would like to talk about the possibility of becoming your guardian. Lucas looked up, vision blurry through tears. You want me? Mrs. Chen's face crumpled with emotion. I have been searching for you since the day of the fire. You are all that remains of my family. Of course I want you. But you didn't know me, Lucas whispered. I was just an elephant in your store. No, Mrs. Chen said firmly. You were never just anything. The moment I opened that seam and saw the locket, I knew I had found the miracle I'd been praying for. Lucas looked down at Mr. Ellie, his faithful companion through years of loneliness. The elephant seemed to gaze back with knowing glass eyes that had witnessed every moment of his journey. Can I still keep him? Lucas asked, suddenly afraid that this tangible link to his parents might be taken away. Mrs. Chen smiled through her tears. Of course. He brought you back to me after all. The next few weeks passed in a blur of paperwork, background checks, and home visits. Lucas learned that Mrs. Chen, Auntie Grace, as she asked him to call her, lived in a small apartment above her second-hand shop just 20 miles from St. Catherine's. She had never married, devoting herself instead to her business and to charitable work with the Children's Hospital. Your father was like a son to me, she explained one afternoon during a supervised visit. I came to America to help raise him after my sister, your grandmother, passed away. Lucas absorbed these revelations with quiet intensity, piecing together the fragments of his history. Each new detail was a stepping stone across the river of unknowing he had been stranded in for so long. The day Lucas left St. Catherine's, Denny stood awkwardly in the dormitory doorway as he packed his few belongings. "So you got a family," Denny said, scuffing his shoe against the floor. "Yeah," Lucas replied, carefully placing Mr. Ellie at the top of his small duffel bag. "That's cool," Denny mumbled. Then rushing forward, he thrust something into Lucas's hands. A battered Hot Wheels car, Denny's most prized possession. "So you don't forget us." Lucas stared at the toy, then at Denny's retreating back as the older boy hurried away. He placed the car gently beside Mr. Ellie. Sister Margaret walked him to the front entrance where Auntie Grace waited. "Remember," she said, straightening his collar, "you are always welcome to visit us." Lucas nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. He had spent so many years imagining this moment, leaving St. Catherine's with a family, that the reality of it felt dreamlike. Auntie Grace's apartment was small but filled with color and light. Potted plants crowded the windowsills and photographs hung on every wall. She had prepared a room for him, painted sky blue with clouds near the ceiling. "I hope you like it," she said anxiously. "We can change anything you don't like." Lucas stood in the doorway, overwhelmed. A real bed with a patchwork quilt. A desk with colored pencils arranged in a ceramic cup. Bookshelves filled with titles he had only seen in the St. Catherine's library. "It's perfect," he whispered. That night, tucked into his new bed with Mr. Ellie clutched to his chest, Lucas listened to the unfamiliar sounds of his new home. The distant hum of traffic, the creak of the buildings settling, the gentle movements of Auntie Grace in the kitchen, the scent of jasmine tea drifting under his door. For the first time in his memory, he fell asleep without straining to hear Sister Margaret's footsteps during bed check or Denny's soft snores from the next bed. The silver bell in Mr. Ellie's ear tinkled gently with each breath. The transition wasn't always smooth. Lucas had nightmares that left him screaming. Memories of smoke and flames now contextualized by what he knew of his parents' deaths. There were days when he retreated into silence, overwhelmed by the weight of his new reality. Moments when he tested boundaries, waiting for Auntie Grace to give up on him like everyone else. But she never did. Slowly, life with Auntie Grace took shape. Mornings helping in the shop before school, learning to sort donations and work the ancient cash register. Afternoons doing homework at the counter while customers browsed. Evenings cooking together, Auntie Grace patiently teaching him to make dumplings and noodles his father had loved as a boy. "Your hands fold the dough just like his," she would say, blinking rapidly to dispel tears. Lucas collected these fragments of his parents like precious stones, storing them carefully in the landscape of his mind. His father had been a talented artist. His mother sang in the church choir. They had met in college where she tutored him in English literature. On his 9th birthday, 3 months after coming to live with Auntie Grace, Lucas received a special gift. A wooden box, hand-carved with dragons and clouds. "This belonged to your father," Auntie Grace explained. "It's for your special treasures." Lucas ran his fingers over the intricate designs, imagining his father's hands creating them. That night, he carefully placed the silver locket inside, along with Denny's Hot Wheels car, a smooth stone Sister Margaret had given him, and a small sketch Auntie Grace had found, a drawing his father had made of baby Lucas sleeping. Mr. Ellie still kept watch from his pillow, the silent guardian of his dreams. Life settled into new patterns. Lucas enrolled in the local school, where the teachers soon noted his aptitude for art. Like father, like son, Auntie Grace noted with pride. He made a few cautious friendships, learning how to navigate social interactions without the institutional framework of St. Catherine's. During his first parent-teacher conference, Lucas sat outside the classroom, heart pounding as he waited for the verdict. Would Auntie Grace be disappointed? Would she reconsider taking him in? She emerged from the room beaming, and the knot in his chest loosened slightly. "Your art teacher wants to enter your drawing in a citywide competition," she told him, her voice vibrating with pride. Relief flooded through him, followed by a tentative joy. "Really? Really?" she confirmed, reaching out to gently ruffle his hair. A gesture she had learned he could now tolerate without flinching. That evening, as they walked home past shop windows glowing in the early dusk, Lucas gathered his courage. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything," Auntie Grace replied. "Do you think—" He hesitated, fear making his voice small. "Do you think my parents would like me? If they could see me now?" Auntie Grace stopped walking. She turned to face him fully, her expression solemn. "Lucas, your parents would be so proud of the boy you have become. You have their kindness, their creativity, their resilience. Every day I see them in you, Lucas absorbed her words, letting them sink into the hollow spaces within him. I wish I could remember them. You carry them with you, she said gently, in ways you don't even realize. That night, Lucas held Mr. Ellie close, running his fingers over the nearly invisible seam where the locket had been hidden for so many years. Thank you, he whispered to the stuffed elephant, for keeping them safe for me. As spring bloomed into summer, Lucas's drawing won honorable mention in the competition. The local newspaper ran a small story about the talented young artist and his journey from orphanage to family reunion. The photograph showed Lucas standing proudly beside his artwork, a meticulous rendering of Mr. Ellie sitting on a windowsill, backlit by sunshine. The story rippled outward in unexpected ways. A week after publication, a woman visited the secondhand shop, her movements hesitant, her eyes scanning the space until they landed on Lucas, arranging books on a shelf. Excuse me, she said. Are you Lucas Lynn? Lucas looked up, instantly on guard. Auntie Grace emerged from the back room, her protective presence a comfort at his side. I'm Maria Vega, the woman explained. I was a nurse at Memorial Hospital when you were born. She paused, seeming to gather courage. And I was there the night of the fire. Lucas felt Auntie Grace's hand on his shoulder, steadying him as the world tilted again. I recognized your story in the paper, Maria continued. I never forgot you. You were the miracle of that terrible night. Miracle? Lucas echoed, confused. Maria nodded, tears filling her eyes. I was volunteering as a first responder when the apartment complex caught fire. Your mother, her voice caught. Your mother must have wrapped you in wet blankets and pushed you under the bed. When we found you, that stuffed elephant was clutched in your arms. You were unconscious but alive, the only survivor from your floor. Lucas struggled to breathe, the shop suddenly too small to contain the magnitude of this revelation. You saved me. I helped get you to the ambulance, Maria corrected gently. Your mother saved you. Her last act was to protect you. That night, Lucas lay awake long after Auntie Grace had gone to bed. He cradled Mr. Ellie against his chest, imagining his mother's hands placing the elephant in his arms, her final gift of comfort and connection. She loved me enough to save me, he whispered to the darkness. The knowledge settled into his bones, reshaping his understanding of himself. He wasn't abandoned. He wasn't unwanted. He had been loved so fiercely that even death couldn't sever the connection. Maria became a regular visitor to the shop, bringing photographs from the hospital where Lucas had been born and stories about his parents, whom she had known casually through community events. Your mother used to sing to you in Chinese and English, she told him over tea one afternoon. Lullabies that mixed both languages together. She wanted you to know both your heritages. Each revelation was a thread connecting Lucas more firmly to his past. The mysterious first 2 years of his life, previously a blank void, began to fill with color and sound and love. On the 1-year anniversary of finding Auntie Grace, Lucas asked if they could visit his parents' graves. They traveled to a small cemetery on the outskirts of the city, where 2 simple headstones stood side by side beneath a maple tree. David Lin, beloved son and father. Meijong Lin, beloved wife and mother. Lucas placed hand-picked wildflowers before each stone. From his pocket, he withdrew 2 carefully folded papers, drawings he had created. For his father, a portrait of Auntie Grace's face, lined with wisdom and kindness. For his mother, a drawing of Mr. Ellie watching over him as he slept. I thought you might want to see, he explained to the stones. I'm okay now. I found my way home. Auntie Grace stood a respectful distance away, giving him privacy for this moment. When he finally stepped back, she approached and placed her own offerings, incense and 2 small cups of tea. In our culture, she explained, that we bring food and drink to nourish our ancestors in the afterlife. Lucas watched the incense smoke curl upward, imagining it carrying his words to wherever his parents might be. Do you think they can hear us? I believe they have been watching over you all along, Auntie Grace replied. How else would Mr. Ellie find his way back to me? As they walked back to the car, Lucas slipped his hand into Auntie Grace's. Her fingers closed around his, warm and secure. Next week is family day at school, he said carefully, testing the words. Would you come? Auntie Grace squeezed his hand. I would be honored. The following Saturday, Lucas helped in the shop as usual. A young woman browsed the shelves, occasionally glancing his way with a small smile. Finally, she approached the counter with a book. Is this your son? She asked Auntie Grace. I read about you both in the newspaper. Such an amazing story. Auntie Grace looked at Lucas, a question in her eyes. They had never formally defined their relationship beyond guardian and ward. Lucas felt a warmth spread through his chest. Yes, he said before Auntie Grace could respond. She's my family. That evening, as they prepared dinner together, Auntie Grace handed Lucas an envelope. This came in the mail today. Inside were official-looking documents and a letter. Lucas read slowly, his brow furrowing in concentration. "What does it mean?" he asked, looking up at Auntie Grace. "It means," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "that if you want, I can legally adopt you. You would officially be my son." Lucas stared at her, the word son echoing in his mind. "But what about my parents? Wouldn't I be forgetting them?" Auntie Grace shook her head. "No, Lucas, we would never forget them. They will always be your first parents, your birth parents. This would just make our family official in the eyes of the law. And my name? You could keep Lin as your last name," she explained. "Or take mine. Or both together. It's your choice." Lucas thought about the silver locket with his Chinese name, about the parents who had loved him enough to save him, about the stuffed elephant that had carried his history safely through years of separation. He thought about Auntie Grace, who had never stopped searching for him. "Lucas Lin Chen," he said, testing the sound. "I think that honors everyone, doesn't it?" Tears spilled down Auntie Grace's cheeks. "It's perfect," she whispered. That night, as Lucas placed Mr. Ellie in his customary spot on the pillow, he noticed something he hadn't before. The elephant's glass eyes caught the light from his bedside lamp, reflecting twin stars in their depths, like his parents watching over him still. "We made it," he told the stuffed elephant. "We found our way home." The silver bell in Mr. Ellie's ear tinkled softly as if in agreement. Lucas closed his eyes, no longer afraid of the dreams that might come. Whatever they held, memory or imagination, past or future, he was no longer facing them alone. In the room he had come to know as his own, surrounded by books and drawings and treasures, Lucas Lin Chen slept peacefully, one hand resting lightly on the worn gray elephant that had carried his history safely back to him. The favorite toy he had once given away, never realizing it held the key to finding his true family.